goodness, it's finally time. This is it. This is the first episode of the first podcast I'm ever doing. And today's the recap. We're gonna. What I mean by recap is for stuff that those of you don't know or you kind of know. I want to just touch into that a little bit before we do into the deep dive of catching up of what's going on, currently. So, let's start off with, some of you know that I did the Twitch thing for a little bit. Forgot when I started, but it was a while ago. Started off with Call of Duty, converted over to a game called Knockout City. At first, I didn't really want to play it. I even talked to one of the devs. You told him when I was talking to him, and I didn't want to play it at all. It wasn't interesting. It didn't captivate me. It didn't, do this, do that. And then it finally grew on to me, and I was playing it every day, every waking moment that I could have. Like, to give you a hindsight of like what my schedule looked like, I'd started my day at like 4 a.m. or 3 a.m., go to the gym for an hour or two, and then come back home, shower, take the dogs out, get ready for work, go to work for 8 to 9 hours, come back and stream and play all night, or even on my days off. At the time my son was in middle schoolish, grade schoolish, so he would come over and play games on the weekends. So we would just game next to each other, and I'm gaming, he's gaming, I'm streaming, he's watching, he's laughing, in the background, all that good stuff. But when that finally game came to a close, I had to find a new niche or home, or I'll even say shelter, you know what I mean, to keep me motivated and want to entertain and whatnot. But this was also during that time we had COVID, and I actually lost my job. And to me, in my eyes, it's COVID related how I lost my job. I'll get into that real quick. Might as well, since we're here. So in my personal opinion, if you have kids, you'll understand where I'm coming from. But your kids are everything. Your kids are your life. Your kids are your hobby. Your kids are your job. You know what I mean? They come over everything. Friends, family, work, everything. Sometimes video games, but unless you know how to hold the bottle under your chin and and the control, and the baby and the control at the same time, then you're just a super dad at that point. I props to you. But anyways, what I was getting into is around that time my son tested positive for COVID, and when I was originally hired, my dad was the manager, and he hired me as a technician. So I was an HVAC technician. I did heating and air. I worked on furnaces, air conditioners, all that good stuff. And this was around the time, we started getting back to work and COVID's going on, but, or COVID just started and nobody knew what was going on, but we still had to work. People were losing heat because this was like, winter time, fall time, around that area, from what I remember. And my son tested positive for COVID, and if I remember correctly, I had COVID like a week or two before. And at that time, the safe thing to do was, if, in my eyes, is, he tested positive, instead of him being at his mom's house, he can be at my house, to where, everyone in my household has already been affected by it. We've already been quarantined, we've already been through it. So if anything, we wouldn't be as affected as much because we've already been, quarantined, and we've gone through the symptoms and everything. We've recovered pretty much. So it was better in that part, to where he come by us, just so we could take care of him, and just so he didn't spread it to anyone else on his mom's side of the family. So after I found out, I got the phone call from his mom, and what's the first thing that you think? The first thing that I think is, drop everything. I'm almost done with work. it's like 5, 6 o'clock at night and I'm almost done with my 8 hours, I don't have to do any like on call. On call means you're getting called to do work after hours, and if someone has no heat, on Saturday and Sunday, or even on a holiday, you got to go help them. You got to go fix it. So I wasn't on call, but the on call person was like, I don't know, half hour away, and the manager at the time, who was taking over my dad's spot that the company hired, he was a sales manager. He didn't know anything about HVAC. He didn't even know how to sell shit. Like, let's put it this way: like a simple fix, like a dirty filter, or a dirty air conditioner door just need to be cleaned to where it could work optimally. He was trying to replace it with a full unit. You're talking about a 10-minute job, going in, checking filter, putting a new filter in, and charging them to $3,000 to $6,000 whole new unit that they don't even need. But yeah, you get what I'm saying. So I told him, I'm like, I have to go home. My son has COVID. That's the first thing you have to do. It's like you have to jump. You have to take care of your kid. That's it. And he was trying to tell me how to be a parent. I'm like, you have kids. You should understand to where if your kids are sick, you need to go take care of them. You have the luxury of having a partner or a wife, because, I don't know if she was a stay-at-home wife or whatnot, but he has the luxury of having that. I didn't have that. I have to go, granted I had my parents, but, this is COVID, you know what I mean? It's not their job. It's my job at the end of the day. Granted they help with things, but still, like I said, it's my job at the end of the day. It's my kid, my job, my responsibility. And that's what I was trying to tell him, and I was trying to plead with him. And I'm like, it was a whole argument in front of the homeowner while I'm trying to fix their furnace. He's like, well, you're down the street. And I'm like, well, I'm not on call, and I'm done for the day, and I need to go take care of my kid. And it became a whole thing. Ended up talking to a manager, who was actually the son of the owner of the company, and I told him, like, I had to relate to him, and even his higher up, I think it was his mom, I don't remember, but it's a family owned company. But so I'm pleading with both of them, and I'm telling them, I'm like, you have kids, you've had kids, and in this instant, like, I even had the COVID proof test result. So, like, my son had COVID. I need to go take care of him. There's no one to take care of him. The person that he's with right now, he could spread it to. And this time it's, people are going crazy over it. People are, and whatnot. And after pleading with them, I don't remember if I got written up or some shit like that, but it was like one thing after another. But that was like the main cause of, like, I was like not really rebellious, but I was just trying to tell them, like, you should understand where I'm coming from. Like, our kids are everything. You know what I mean? Like, this manager is trying to tell me how to be a parent, and I told him to fuck off. You know what I mean? I told him that, my kid comes before my job, or even before me. I don't care what his mindset was at the time. Like, this is how it is. Granted that person has no heat, but, my kid has COVID. My kid's sick right now. My kid has a fever. I have to get to him as soon as possible. So eventually they let me go. And, like I said, one thing led to another. That guy eventually... my dad eventually, the guy who hired me to be at HVAC eventually was let go too. So I was let go. He was let go. He got it a little bit harder than I did, which I won't really go into it. But, at that time, he had a heart attack as well. So he had that going on, and this was like the second, maybe third one that I knew about. The first one that I knew about, he was in his work van. I wasn't working for him at the time, but he was in his work van, like, passed out, and someone found him, and they had to, like, wake him up and whatnot. This time it was kind of like family related, to where he came home. I don't remember if he was still working or not working, but he came home, and me and my sister, one of my sisters, were arguing and fighting, and I was trying to prevent any kind of physical interaction between my mother and my sister at the time, so there was no, even more problems of what there already was, what I mean? There was a lot of screaming, but I didn't want someone to lay hands on someone else, what I mean? Stuff like that. So I had to, be the medium or the middleman or whatever, and he came home to that, and that kind of just put him into the hospital, and that was his heart attack, that we all experienced together. He was put on, they were trying to put him on some medication or something like that, and they were trying to do some surgery on him. He told him no about the surgery. It's his personal choice. Eventually bit him in the ass later, but that was his own personal choice. And fast forward a little bit, I changed jobs, which some of you knew about. So I went from HVAC to being a delivery driver. Now, this completely changed my whole spectrum and schedule and everything, because before COVID, I was working out, like I said, and then COVID happened, so that was eliminated because gyms were only open at a certain time. They were no longer 24/7, which is, still is on some of them, or majority of them right now. It's like really hard to find a 24/7 gym. So I would love to go back to the gym. It's so hard to find one nowadays. So there's that. And then changing my whole work schedule from 5, sometimes 7 days a week to 4 days a week. Now, some of you might say, hey, that's not that bad. You get 4 days on, 3 days off. Well, it kind of is when you're doing a physically demanding job. And what I mean by physically demanding is, not including, if you include the commute, hour there, hour back, that's like a 10 to 12 hour day of loading your own truck, walking around all day, stop and go. The packages could be like as light as a feather or over 50 to 60 pounds. You know what I mean? There's totes full of small little envelopes and small little boxes in each little tote, and each one of those totes is like, on a bad day it could be 100 pounds, on a good day it could be like 20 or 30. You know what I mean? You're just physically demanding, lifting every day, walking every day, driving all day for like continuous of 8 to 10 hours. And at this time, like anyone had a new job, you're trying to, look good, make sure you don't get fired and whatnot. So, I made the dumb executive decision to skip my breaks, skip my lunch, get my body acclimated to it. But in that process, like, there's been days where I didn't eat all day, or I snacked and drank water and whatnot, but I come home and I just go straight to bed. Or there have been days to where I come home and I nibble a little bit and then go to bed, or I'll come home and I'll even try to get on a video game and I try to stream for a little bit. That was a one thing that some of you noticed that from me from that time is I stopped streaming as much, after Knockout City, because not just because of the job, but because Knockout City ended, and I was trying to find a new platform to play on. First I think it was like Cartwriter or something, and then a little bit of Call of Duty and Diablo 4, but it was just hard to find that again, that motivation, that inspiration to keep going. And it also was hard to find that energy, not just to entertain, but just to like connect with people still and continue connecting with people, which is really hard because there was just so much going on between, family, personal, and work. And it was a lot to take in, a lot of change going on. And at some point, I just stopped streaming, just worked. I didn't have a life again. You know what I mean? It's just, it sucked, To this day, I still have, like, no life. But we'll get into that later. But after, like, a year or two of just doing this constant work, sometimes it would be 5 days, sometimes it would be 4 days. In the holiday season, you're doing, like, 6 days. You only get, the only days you get off are Thursday and Thanksgiving and Christmas Day. You don't even get holiday pay for that. The other thing too is a lot of people don't notice, but I've actually talked to a couple customers or homeowners, whatever we're calling them, but they're like, oh yeah, you guys are like UPS and FedEx. I mean, you guys start and when you end, and I'm like, no, it's nothing like that. We get maybe the same amount as FedEx, or maybe twice the amount of FedEx, and we're put on a time schedule. So they could start at 8 o'clock and they're done when their route is done. That could be a 6-hour day, or that could be a 12-hour day. Our day starts at 9, and we have to be back by 8. Or our day starts at 10 and we have to be back at 8. Like we get a 10-hour route and we have to be back by a certain time. Meaning that they're trying to force us to run through the route. So that leads to not taking breaks and not taking lunch. I hate to say it how it is, but they really don't give a fuck about you. They really don't. They want to squeeze every little penny out of your physical body to where you even if you break down to nothing, or if you break down to nothing and come back, they'll still squeeze every little fucking penny out of you. And I hate to say that. That's just how it is. But I got to the point where I ended up in the hospital. And to this day, I still think about it. It was this very scary moment. And it was one of those things where I question, this and that still. What I mean by that, I'll get into, was when I was delivering, I was doing my normal route. And all of a sudden, I just got these chills. And I was, my body started going numb. Like my shoulders, my arms, my, like, a little bit of my, like, pelvic thigh area, my face. It was getting cold and numb. Like, I couldn't feel shit at all. Instantly contacted someone. I'm like, I need to take my break now. I need to take lunch. I need to just lay down. Eventually, like, I felt like I had a fever, but it wasn't, I don't know how to explain it, but I was cold, but I was freezing my ass off, and I was in the back of the van, and the van's like 100 to 120 degrees with everything closed. And I always carry extra clothes, or just in case clothes, and I was in shorts and a tank top and a work vest. I grabbed a long sleeve shirt, I grabbed a hoodie, I grabbed a hat, I grabbed everything that I could find to add more layers to me to keep me warm, because I shit you not, like, if I put the window down and there was like a slight breeze, my hairs were standing up. It was like that, but I was, freezing my ass off, but I was like, my body was extremely hot to the touch. And I eventually ended up in the hospital. First thing they made me, they asked a whole bunch of questions, and one of them, like I said, caught my attention was, have you ever had anxiety or a panic attack? And I said no. And now I actually think about it. There were some slight symptoms to that. Granted, after they made us wait like 8 hours in the waiting room, freezing my ass off, and incoherent, trying to like keep myself warm, and I finally pass out, and they put us in a room, and they end up telling me that I had low magnesium. I don't know if it's because I have high metabolism, and my job is so physically demanding to where I'm just not eating enough, or it had nothing to do with liquids. I shit you not, I have like 5 to 6 water bottles a day. I snacked every day. Like, I had legit snacks every day, all day. So I think it was just more so like my food intake wasn't enough, and I wasn't putting my body in a break, like stopping what I was doing. The doctor kind of yelled at me, and my mom kind of yelled at me, and they're like, you need to stop and take lunch, and everyone kind of yelled at me and said, you need to take a break. Not like, even if you're on your lunch break, even if you don't have a whole bunch of food, or even if it's a snack, just stop. Like, or if you have no food at all, just stop moving, just let your body catch up. Because that's all I've been doing, just endlessly running, mentally, emotionally, physically, nonstop, since like losing a job, my dad going through a heart attack, and actually, let's backtrack a little bit to where his third heart attack, and this is what led to me into the hospital first time, which is what this time that I'm talking about is when he had the heart attack again. He wasn't at work anymore, and in that time, it was right before I went to the hospital. I would say I don't know how much time, but it was in between. But they were both in the summer, and he actually had a heart attack, and he actually had to have open heart surgery. And that's what led to me, overworking and overstressing and overcompensating for a whole bunch of things, is because going through those emotions and whatnot just put a toll on me. And that's why I question and look back and think, maybe I did have a panic attack. On top of having low magnesium and my food intake not keeping up with my physical demanding output. But I think about that from time to time. You know what I mean? Just the complete life change of having an outlet like the gym or Twitch, and then you take all that away, and then you change that completely consistent work schedule to an inconsistent work schedule, and then you have your dad who had a heart attack 2 times in a row, and on that second time he goes in for open heart surgery. And how that one happened was he was helping me move some things, and I noticed that he wasn't 100% there, you know what I mean, physically and mentally. And I noticed he kind of took a step back, and after it happened, he ended up in the hospital. I think it was the same day after he helped me move some stuff, move some boxes or whatnot. I kind of blame myself for that one. It was very hard to approach him after it happened too. I think it was a day or two. And when I was in the hospital room with him, I couldn't really look at him because I felt bad. This is my fault. I pushed him to help me move this shit, and I pushed him too far to where he ended up in the hospital. And I think he knew what I was thinking, because I was kind of tearing up and whatnot. And he saw it in my eyes, and I saw it in his, and I'm like, you can blame me. I don't instead of me apologizing, I'm like you. I'm like, it's probably my fault, but you can blame it on me. You know what I mean? I feel like this is my fault, and I tried telling him that, and he's like, no, it's not your fault. It's just everything else going on, and my bad decisions and whatnot. And it kind of really, lifted some weight off of me, because I was bad for a day or two after he went in. And I actually was at work, and it was very difficult for me to work. You're just distracted all day, and you're just blaming yourself. I fucking pushed my dad to the limit, and he ended up where he's at right now. But when he said it to me, it kind of lifted some weight. You know what I mean? Some emotional weight that I was carrying around for those 2 days to a week and whatnot. So it gradually lifted away and went away, but it sucked seeing him like that. It sucked trying to help my family, emotionally and financially and whatnot. And that's when it pushed me to the hospital that same summer, where I get yelled at by everyone saying, you need to stop, you're hurting yourself. And then I think I went to the hospital and I went to the hospital and took a day or two off from work, and went instantly back. And now I take my lunch break. Now I don't take my 2:15 breaks that you're allowed to take, but now I take my lunch break, or I try to take my lunch break. There are instances where, like I said, they just fucking dump a whole stupid route on you, and to where you have no fucking time. And in the holiday season, once or twice every now and then, you know what I mean, or once every month or every 2 months, I might skip a lunch. But no, I try to take my lunch, no matter how behind it puts me. I try to take my lunch, or I try to find time to just stop what I'm doing, just to sit, to be at peace for a second, or calm down, or even like munch on a whole bunch of food. So I try doing that now. So that way, I if I do go home and I'm tired, I don't just pass out without eating all day. At least like I'm stopping, I'm eating, I'm drinking water all day, etc., etc. So yeah, there's all that. So let's see. Let's fast forward a little bit. I think the fast forward now would be the catch up. And I don't really want to get into that into the next episode, but I think what I really want to touch upon now is, no matter what your job is, whether if you're, moving around like I am in a truck, or if you're moving around in a warehouse, or even, sitting in front of a desk, get off your ass, or sit on your ass in some instances, and take your break, take your lunch, go home and hide in your man cave, do something to zen yourself out, to calm yourself, because, and then also just like reflect on, hey, is what I'm doing currently, good for me, mind you, what I mean by that is, like, after my dad had a heart attack, like, I cut back on a lot of fast food, because I was always eating fast food at work, cut back on a lot of sugary drinks, like, as it is, I was already cutting back on sugary drinks, like soda and whatnot. Like, I probably have like one energy drink a day, maybe 1.5 if I'm lucky. But like, even that part, I cut back on, COVID, I cut back on, cigarettes. I went just to vaping, and that helped a lot. Just like stuff like that, just take a second and think, hey, what can I change right now? And what can I change tomorrow or the day after? You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight and you're going to fix things overnight. I'm just saying, what can you change now? It's like in this one simple instance, and what can you change tomorrow, and so on and so forth, Think about yourself, especially if you have kids. Think about yourself first, I have kids, so I have to think about, my health problems now, my health issues, my emotional and mental instability, you know what I mean? So I have to think about that now. Because if I'm not here, who's going to be there for them, aside from my friends and family and whatnot. So, yeah. Hopefully you guys can take a second today, or even tomorrow, you know what I mean? Make that time, process what's going on, and say, hey, what can I change? If I can change anything. Or, if you can't go to the gym, or if you can't, you already bought groceries and you can't change your food items for this week, but, think about what you can do the next time you go grocery shopping, or, think about, what can I bring, what can I buy at home, bring it home to where I can start working out at home, or if you have a newborn, what if I go on a walk with the baby in a stroller, or what if I, just change one simple thing, what if I did quit smoking, what if I did quit vaping, stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know, it's kind of just, like I said, the recap. Some of you knew of some of this, like I said, from my Discord. I made announcements to where I was going to go away for a little bit. Like I said, this is a recap. Some of you knew, some of you didn't know. And those of you that kind of knew, or knew but didn't know everything, I kind of dug in a little bit deeper for you guys. You heard a little bit more. And then, like I said, the next one, the next episode, we'll do that deep dive. We're gonna deepest. We're gonna have we're gonna go from the point where, like I said, after I went to the hospital, all the way till now, because there's a lot. And then after that, like I said, we're gonna wing it. We're gonna see where this podcast takes us and takes me. And you know, if there are certain things I will say, if there are certain movies or TV shows you want me to look at, or anime, or you want me to look at, or you want me to talk about, let me know. In the comments. Like I said, I haven't fully decided if I want to do. Let's use a TV show for example, or an anime for example. I don't know if I want to do an episode per episode. Like I watch the episode, I do like a non-spoiler part 1 and then a spoiler part 2. If someone has or has not seen it, regardless, I just want to have that kind of format where we talk about that. Or if I just watch the whole season and then I kind of just try and take notes. That might take a little bit longer. At least with an episode, I can take the time and just take a half hour to an hour to watch it and then, go over it and share my thoughts on it. But if there is something you guys want me to read, watch, or listen to, and then go over it and hear my thoughts about it, let me know. Because like I said, I kind of know where I want to start. Like it's gonna bounce around. Some days it could be something old, some days it could be something new, or some weeks it could be old, and some weeks it could be newer or more present, and sometimes it could just be, we'll talk about personal shit. You know what I mean? Like I said in the before, I might have other people in here. We'll just shoot the shit and just see what's going on with them and whatnot, and catch up with them or whatnot. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So, like I said, we'll see where it takes me. We'll see where it takes you. Like, just want to connect with all you again. But if this does come out, like I said, it may come out Father's Day or the day after Father's Day. You know what I mean? You guys know. If you guys are following the playlist or following the YouTube channel, you'll get the notification. If you're subscribing to the YouTube channel, you'll get the notification. I'm still working on trying to get it on Apple and eventually Spotify, but I feel like I have to put more content out just to have more content for the RSS feed or whatever the hell they want me to do or whatnot. And then I gotta, I don't know, explain it. Like, I understand what they want, and I kind of don't understand what they want. Like, if that makes sense. Like, but then I also kind of like it's kind of just been past the 10 pending days where it's, is it going to publish or not? You know what I mean? Like, I have the RSS feed leading to the Apple podcast thingy that I have all set up. It's just not there. It's not, approved yet, I guess you could say. So I still got to figure that out. But so for now, it's just all going to be on YouTube. Figure we'll just make a catalog on YouTube and just go from there. At least we'll have a catalog that we can just convert over and whatnot. But yeah, we'll see you guys in the next episode. Like I said, it will be the deep dive. I'll try and do it on Sunday, my time. I'll record it. Raw dog it, no editing. There might be some slight editing to where I gotta cut something out because the background noise or whatever, or the whatever. But we'll raw dog it. Just record, upload, post. Hopefully I can get an episode out every week for you guys. If not, I'll try and do 2. This week might be 2. Shit, today on Father's Day it might be 2. We'll see. But yeah, have a good one. See you soon.